This episode is brought to you by Ardan Labs Education. Sign up today to learn advanced concepts in Go, Docker, Kubernetes, Terraform, and more. Visit ardanlabs.com/education for more information.
Welcome to the Ardan Labs podcast. Our special guest today, all the way from Tel Aviv. Here he is, Miki Tebeka. Miki, oh my God, it's only like I saw you last week at Gophercon UK, man. I was just running in the same circles.
Yes, we had nice weather in London, and now I'm back to the hot and humid coastal area of Israel.
Yeah, well, I'm back in Miami, but you know what? I don't care, dude. When I say I'm going to Miami, everybody's eyes light up. So that's enough for me to deal with the weather.
No, I like it here. Just I can go without the summer.
Yeah, but you got air conditioning there. It's not like
Yeah,
you can't hide from it at some level, right?
yeah, for sure.
I mean, imagine what 80 years ago, right? There's no AC 80 years ago, right? So
Yeah, I think about my father working in the earlier aeronautics industries in all these small places, no AC, doing electricity for planes. It's like, how can they work?
they didn't know any better, right? It
Yeah.
was just your body was probably conditioned. That's why they live. That's why that generation lives so long, Mickey. They had to like physically endure a lot, and their bodies were just like my grandfather when he came here from Italy, right? I mean, like his jobs were digging ditches and roads, and before he ended up becoming a mechanic for TWA airline, he ended up being a mechanic. But I mean, before that, you had labor jobs, and you were just outside using your like. We don't do that. We sit all day, Mickey.
I think that's every generation looks at this next one and say they are spoiled. Really, like we had it so much harder.
I don't think our at least the grandparents. My grandparents weren't spoiled. I don't see that.
They work harder. I think they had less. They dealt differently with things.
Yeah, for sure.
And for sure, when we look at the new software people, the new generation.
Let's explore that for a second before we jump in the time machine, right? For sure, they have better tooling. You feel like they could be more productive, but at some level, and I'm sure the generation before us feels the same way.
Yes.
Like, are they losing their engineering chops because the tooling isn't forcing them to learn more or learn how to debug things? You know where I'm going there. So
it's really interesting. There's a saying, I think Marshall McLuhan, that we shape our tools and then our tools shape us. So I think we worked with a different set of tools. We have a different kind of thinking. And the younger generation, they have other tools. So they think and they see other possibilities that sometimes we are blind to because we're set in our ways already.
For sure, the Chat GPT for the programming side.
Yes.
Find me 20 lines of code to do this or clean up my SQL. I mean, that's huge. I'm not jealous that I haven't had it. I think it's amazing. If you're not using it at some level, like why?
So I'm not using it for two reasons. One is a legal one. I am a consultant. Most of my code is clients, and I can't afford it going outside to some server to do the completion for me and back. And that's something that you need to think about. I think last week the Apache Foundation came out with a notice about how to use these ChatGPT tools and Copilot in the Apache toolbase. And it's really an interesting read about what you can do with that and how you can make sure that you're not actually getting an auto-completion for code that is not compatible with the license that you have. So that's one issue. The second issue is that I agree that for most of the things that are clean up my SQL query, write me a client to that REST API, this is probably great stuff. When I come out to the specialized stuff that you do and sometimes I do as well, I found out that it's either lacking knowledge or sometimes wrong. I've had some bad experience with trying to ask them about some topics that are not common, and it was between wrong and not ideal.
Yeah, I don't want it to do the engineering, but how many times have you spent an hour looking for those 20 lines of code for an API just so you can watch it work, right? And then you take it. Like I've seen it be really valuable in saving time there.
Yes, exactly these places. I think it's going to really do a revolution. And I also see it when I'm teaching. I give an assignment to the students and they tell me, hey, it's done because I did it with Copilot. So that's a problem also. I need to think of problems that they can't find on Copilot. But sometimes just from the description of the problem, it generates a good enough code for them to.
But is it a problem? I mean, as an average practical developer, if you're hiring somebody to do that work, you want them to get the work done.
Yes.
Do I care that they use the calculator at the end of the day? Maybe in school, but not. In fact, if you're not using the calculator, again, why? So I find that interesting. But you feel like that student didn't gain what you wanted them to gain because.
Yeah, the same thing with schools. We tell them start without the calculator. So you'll understand numbers, you'll understand multiplication, you'll understand division. Once you got it, okay, go back to the calculator to do the long numbers, the things that computers are really good. But you want to shape your thinking. And if you just copy and paste, like you do, and it was even before, people just go to Stack Overflow, take the first answer, copy to their code, it runs. That's it. They're done moving to the next one. But if you look on the long run, it might not fit the code base. It might not solve the problem efficiently enough. I don't think, maybe, that's as I said, maybe the tools are different and my way of thinking is too sad to acknowledge that. It still feels like, especially when learning, take something ready and copy it over. That's not learning.
I wonder if you can just tell the students at the beginning of class, turn off Code Pilot. I don't want you using this and that. And if they still do, then it's on them, right? It's not on you.
Yeah, in a way it helps because a lot of time when you learn a new language, and most people that come to Go are coming from another language, it's really hard. You fight with the syntax. You don't remember the actual function names and the package name that does whatever you want it to do. So actually having something that will suggest that might help them. Not sure for the learning process, but will speed it up for sure. So there is a balance there. I'm not sure where to put a finger on the right place in the scale.
All right, give everybody the 2-minute drill on what you're doing today. What is Miki doing today?
I run my own small shop of consulting and teaching. I teach with Ardan Labs, which I highly enjoy and learn a lot from you. I organize the Gophercon Israel and the Pydata Israel conferences and the Go Israel Meetup. I'm authoring books. I'm a LinkedIn Learning creator, I think it's called. I have videos over there, and I do a lot of other geeky stuff. And that's basically it, what I do these days.
What's the book that you just, or the books that you have?
Effective Go Recipes with the Programmatic Programmer. This is my first time writing with a publishing house, which is awesome. Once you have a really good experienced editor, and thank you, Margaret, I can't thank you enough for all the help. It really makes it so much better. So this is the one that's coming up. Currently in beta, we're releasing chapters as they go, and I'm getting reviews. Still not happy with the code at all, but you're never happy with the code. So trying to do not too many changes to make the editors angry. But it's an interesting process writing.
It's not easy. Technical writing is very, very hard. And time consuming and draining. So anybody who writes a book and gets it done, I'm always enamored by that effort. And I support anybody who writes a book, even anything that would quote unquote compete with mine. The effort is just so immense that I have to promote it.
And there's what I really like about writing is that someone said that writing is a way for the universe to show us how sloppy our thinking is, because once you need to place things in writing and make it coherent and someone else to understand them, wow, everything you thought it's pretty obvious is not even close.
It's easy to talk about something. It's much harder to write because the context is always missing. And then you got to know where to draw the line on how much do I expect the reader to know so you don't go down that rabbit hole.
Context is everything. Like when people see something in one context and another, it's totally different. A lot of time when working with clients, if you don't set expectation rights, both for students and for projects, that's a failure from the beginning. I came to courses, saying this is advanced. I get people 2 months in doing something. it's not going to work.
So you're essentially educating full time, but I'm curious if you're working on any client projects to help keep your skill sets up. Because I find if I don't work on one client project a year, even for 3 months, I don't feel I can be as effective as a teacher in that room because everybody's working on a client project in there, right?
Also, everything is changing so much. So you need to learn the new technologies and how people work and understand teams. I do it. I have to confess that the last year has been hard. The economy was not great, so it was hard for me to find a project. So I'm playing around with open source projects and doing my own project. But in past years, since I started, I always worked with at least one customer on projects that are in production to see what's going on there. It's really, really valuable. And also, once you see what people are struggling at work, you understand what's more important to teach them when you do that.
Yeah, my service repo, every time I work on a client project, it improves tenfold.
Yes.
For sure, right? And now I just came off of a client project, so you're not going to see a lot of activity. And I don't really want to work on a client project right now for the rest of the year. But next year, I'm going to feel it, and we're going to jump in there, and I'm going to use this code base, and we're going to learn more. So yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah, it's also what gives me new ideas. Like, okay, now I'm helping optimize the system that detects bots, and then, okay, how do you characterize the performance needs? How do you actually test it? What are the places that you can do optimization? And from that comes a lot of interesting stuff that I can teach people.
How long have you had this business? I think what do you call it? 360. I can't remember now. Sorry.
353 solutions.
Say it again.
353 solutions. And it's kind of a riddle for our listeners. It is related to Python, this number. So you're welcome to go ahead and send me an email and figure it out. It's not that hard, but it is related. So I've been working as a software developer since 97, give or take.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. I'm gonna throw you in the time machine. I was just curious how long.
Oh, okay. But it started when I came back to Israel. So this was 2000, I want to say 9 years ago, something like that. This is
9 years ago. Yeah, okay. Almost as long as Arden. I think Arden's been around 11. So yeah, just around that time. Okay. I don't want to talk anymore about that because I want to get there. I want to get our story in there. So I want to throw you in the time machine, as I call it. But before we do that, I need to know, I'm going to age you now, man. What year it was when you were essentially 17, when you were finishing your grade school and now you had to make that choice for service or university. What year was it when you sort of finished your high school, we're going to call it?
So I finished high school 88.
88. Okay. Stay there. Because I finished, that's when you were like 17, right? So, and I finished my high school in 87. So we're literally the same age then.
And then in Israel, you go to the army.
I don't know, but I don't want to talk about that just yet. Hold back. Okay. Next question. We're going to get there, but next question. All right. Clear your mind. Favorite question. Here it goes. I want you to show me the very first memory that pops in your head working on a computer. That with that keyboard.
Oh, wow. That was even before that. My parents got me, I think it was a ZX Spectrum machine. And they hired a student friend from university, and we did some games in BASIC.
Wow. How old are you there? Roughly
15, 14-ish, something like that.
All right. So you're in high school. Your parents bring home this computer. They actually were getting you lessons.
Yes.
On writing a game in BASIC.
A friend of the family was a CS student in a university close by. He came over and was teaching me and my brother together.
Is your brother older or younger?
He's 1 year younger than me.
Is he doing computers today? Is he doing anything?
He's even harder.
He's like, oh yeah.
He's hardcore.
What is he doing?
He's
today?
doing C++ on the GPU inside network.
Oh yeah, that's hardcore right there.
Somewhere in the bowels of the hardware, currently in NVIDIA.
What did your parents do at the time that they saw the value in that computer and the lessons?
I think we asked them for a computer. We were interested, so we asked them. They went abroad and they brought it back with them.
You must have been excited. Do you remember when they walk in the house with this computer? You guys your brother and you are fighting over time on this thing?
I don't remember. I have a really, really bad memory. I joke that I have a 1-bit memory. So I don't remember us fighting. Probably yes, two boys in the same house. So we fight, but uh,
Wanting equal time.
yes, exactly. But I don't remember something specific.
What else were you interested in um, during those years, 14, 15, 16, 17? Was it just engineering stuff or was it sports? What else were you doing?
We were doing a lot of hiking in Israel. It's something I still do and love. So that's another passion. I was an avid reader. I could finish 4 books per week at some point. Yeah,
Was that speed reading or just
I read fast. It's not speed reading. I didn't learn that, but I read really, really fast. Most of that, like we're a good group of friends. We're doing hiking together, hanging out together.
what kind of books were you reading? Was it fiction, nonfiction, all over the place?
Mostly fiction, but sometimes they give us for book assignment, for school assignment, like The Catcher in the Rye, and I just read it before even the year started because it is a good book. Mostly fiction.
Do you still read like that today, or that was just
Yeah, not the volume. I can't do the volume. But I do read today. I also read a lot of technical stuff, from technical books to blogs to other things. So I spend a lot of time reading.
when you're about to graduate high school? You've already been training as a software developer. I'm sure you're writing programs at home, doing a lot of basic. And I imagine that you're thinking this is the path I want to take. But you have to go do your 3 years of service.
So I wasn't sure about, by the way, about computers. I also liked math a lot. So I was maybe math, maybe physics. These were also very interesting for me. So I wasn't sure. And then there's a pause in the army. And the army, I didn't touch a computer at all. Something totally different.
I'm going to ask you a question because I talked to Teva a couple shows ago. He's much younger than us. I think he graduated in 2003. And he had the option of going to university first before doing his service. And that's the path he took, which seemed pretty amazing because then when he went and did his service, he was doing technical things.
You can do that.
Was that an
Yeah,
option?
it
for
was
you
an option
too?
then as well. Some of my friends from class did that. So it's like a deal that the army pays for school, and then you stay longer in the army doing what you learned.
Yeah, he was there longer, maybe like 6 years.
I didn't go there. I wanted to go to do army stuff.
You wanted to do the army stuff. You were excited about.
It's interesting. It's really challenging. There's a lot of. I think also all the friends and the place that I was, everyone was going to do military, like infantry, air force, things that are more. When you think about soldiers, that's what we did, and that's part of the thing. You learn a lot about yourself during these years. So it's not a desk job. It's something else.
I mean, and it's your first time you get to be out of the house and the first time you're on your own, and that's exciting. Tell me a little bit about that time. Like, share like some memories around. I don't know, one of the really cool things that happened during that sort of time in 3 years.
So I started by trying to be a fighter pilot, which is very tough to get in. And once you get in, I think something like 1 of 10 actually finish. It took about 3 months for me to get out. And I learned that, okay, I may know some stuff, but there are other things. And there I saw people that are not as educated as me, that came out, barely finished high school, but when they go on a plane, they do much better. And I understood that there are.
Oh, so you made the school. So you made the fighter pilot. You passed.
I made a cut to start it, but I dropped out. It's a 2-year program. I dropped out, or I was forced to drop out because I didn't meet the expectation after about 3 months. And then I saw the different kind of intelligence or different kind of skill set that you have. And this is something I still appreciate in people today, that I know that for certain things that people are better at and less than. It's not that you're smart, you're good at everything. And there are different kind of smart as well, which is also interesting.
You get through that program, you're basically talking about a military career, at least for the beginning of your life. You're not.
They stay in the army for a long while, and after that, when they do reserve to keep in flying shape, I think they need to do at least 1 day a week. So they're there all the time, the pilots.
But at the end of the day, you realized. Did you realize that you weren't going to be able to really get through it all, or you just lost interest in it after 3 months?
Oh no, I was told that you're not good enough. We did some tests at the middle. I was flying, not finding my place so much in the air. I like my feet on the ground. So
Oh, dude, but you got to fly one of these machines at some.
yes, I did 5 or 10 flights. Yeah, and these are the small Cessna ones. No, there is an instructor there. You're not on your own.
Okay. But still, dude, that's amazing experience.
It is crazy. Uh, don't remember much from it. Told you my memory, but yeah, it's like It's like being on a roller coaster that you control. You can decide when you do.
I had an internship at, Grumman, which is now Grumman Northrop, and I got in the, I don't know, my first year of internship, and they put us in one of these F-14 simulators. Dude, this thing didn't even move, okay? It was just, like 300, not 60, but maybe 190 degrees, right? So you couldn't see behind you. Thing didn't move. The pilot, I'm sitting in the front or the back seat, I don't remember. And this guy says, "We're coming up to a mountain. When we go down a mountain, we invert to help." So he inverts. I almost threw up. I wasn't even moving, dude. I almost threw up. So I can't even imagine that with the G's, with everything kind of, man.
It can be crazy. For me, it was a small place. The Cessnas, the propelled ones, but still, it's a different experience.
That doesn't work out for you. So that I guess they put you back in infantry, I guess, at that point. Where do you go after that?
Yeah, yeah. So there I'm going to field artillery, and I'm going there to be finally an officer.
Oh, an officer.
Yeah. So I went to officer school. This is also something that teach you a lot about yourself, about responsibility, about how to think. Um, a lot of people look down at the army saying, this is a big system, doesn't move fast, has a lot of stagnation there. But I think that's what's interesting is that army is a concept. It's a system that's been around for thousands of years, and it's still working in a really tough condition. So they have something they know, and you can learn from that on a lot of things. So yeah, things are moving. Maybe the army looks like it's backwards sometimes, but they have the reasons to do that. And when you go there as an officer and you have soldiers and you're responsible, and remember you finish that 20 something, and they give you people. And I was first instructor or in the boot camp for new soldiers. And there was an interesting episode that I remember. Sometimes people come to Israel to the country and they're older. They're not 18, they're like 30 or something. So we do them something fast through the army, like 3 months, and then they just do reserve duty. And this was one of my groups. It was interesting for me because now, I'm commanding people who are, I'm 21, they're 30, 40, and they need to listen to what I'm saying. And, we had a lot of arguments, which was interesting because I was very relaxed with these guys. It's not like they're the young people. And we had one of them was a magician, and he was doing all kinds of tricks. So he was smoking a cigarette, and then the sergeant came to shout, and cigarette is gone. Like, so the sergeant looking and then turning back, and then cigarette pops up. I was laughing so much.
It sounds to me like you really had it in your head that you were going to do more than 3 years.
Yes. My thought was, I'm already there. Let's make the best of it. Let's go to the interesting things. Let's do stuff that is meaningful. And
How long were you there for?
4 years.
Oh, 4 years. So what happens 4 years in that you decide that, no, I'm not going to make this a career?
So once you become an officer, you're obliged to do an extra year, and after that, it really depends on you and what they have to offer. I finished. I was in Lebanon for a year and a half, give or take, which was pretty taxing, and I didn't want to go there. I didn't find anything that was that interesting. And a friend of mine was already out of the army, and he said, "Hey, we have plane tickets to go to do the big trip after the army." So
Wow. Where was the trip, dude? Sounds like a fun trip.
So yeah, I was out for a year. Started Australia, New Zealand, sailing to Vanuatu and Solomon Islands, and finally base camp, Everest base camp in Nepal, and then back home.
So that's like 93, 93, 94.
93, yeah.
Okay, so you did your 4 years, you go have some fun, you come back, you got to do something, you got to be productive. All your skills at this point are in managing soldiers, right? You haven't done anything technical in 4 years. So, w- first of all, do you go back home at this point, which has got to be impossible? Like, what do you do?
No, I went home. I still had my room. Israel is so small that even in the army, you come back on the weekends, or not every weekend, but every other or maybe every few weekends. So I was still there. I When I came back from the tour, I just missed the beginning of the school year. So I said, you know what, I'll do another year, just work, get some money, so I'll have some for school. And then I started school the year after.
But what was the job? It's just
Oh, I was a tour guide, mostly hiking and rappelling. Uh,
you worked for a company that did that?
yeah, I work for a company.
That sounds like a great job. I'm gonna get paid to go hiking every day.
So that's the thing. When you go hiking with your friends, this is fun. When you go hiking with people that you're responsible, it can be fun depending on the people. Sometimes they are out of shape. Sometimes they complain. They're not happy. And you need to make so it is there's sometimes people say that I had a hobby, then I made it a job, and now I don't have a hobby anymore. So it's not that, but I prefer to, when I hike now, it's with my friends. I trust them. I know them for 50 years. We can
The only thing I can make the only thing in my head I can equivocate that to is, like, don't work in your favorite restaurant.
yeah.
Like, don't look at how the sausage is made.
Yes, sometimes it's that as well.
In a sense, because it ruins it.
It is work. It's sometimes, you start at 4 a.m., you back home 10 p.m. Sometimes you stay overnight. It's really hard work. I love being outside, so it was great for me, but it is hard work.
Alright, so you're making all this money, but then now you're gonna go to university. So 2 things there. What are you gonna study, and do you continue to work while you're at university, or you made enough money?
So I made enough money to just for the first year to just cruise along. I was still doing sometimes in weekends just to get a bit more money, pocket change, but I had a hard time deciding what I want to do. But eventually, I decided to go to university in Beersheba, Ben Gurion University, which has computer science and math, which starts this. Everybody starts the same thing in the first year, and after that, you decide where do you want to go. And for me, it was a good thing because I said now I can try both, see which one I like. Um, so I started there. Eventually, decided on computer science, and that's where I went.
So Tava told me that he had 2 choices, university or engineering school. Was one and he didn't get into the engineering school, so he ended up going to university where he studied IT.
Yeah, so at the time, there was not that many engineering schools or colleges in Israel. These days, we have way more. So most of the time for higher education, just one of the, I think, 5 big ones. And that's it.
But you went in for computer science, and you had did you have to take a test for that, or you were just apply and you're in?
I was applying. We have something which is standardized test we take before. I think it's similar to the SATs somewhat. And then your high school grades, and this is the criteria where you go in. I scored high enough on the SATs. I just went in without a problem. And then the first year, you have to be. So they said we have 50 places in the computer science, so the top 50 will get there. So you have to make sure that you're in the top 50 out of, I think, 100 and something. So,
But you're kind of starting fresh again because, man, it's been like 5 years, dude. You probably don't even remember much of anything that you were doing in the prior.
yeah, it was really
So
hard.
what is that? A 5-year program? What is that? What is the university again?
If you do the engineering, it's usually 4. But I did just the Bachelor of Science, the BSc, so it's 3 years. Uh, I was really lucky at the beginning. I made friends with a guy, Elad, who's actually way younger. He did first going to the university and then the army, and he was a computer geek all around. So he knew his computers, and we hit it off, and we studied together all the time. So he really helped me remember and learn everything there. Still one of the smartest people I know.
Talk to me about those 3 years learning the computer science, because a lot of people that I talk to hate the theory aspects of it, and especially when you've done a little practical computing already and you go to university, you're just like pulling your hair out. Did you have some of those same experiences, or you enjoyed all the theoretical stuff?
So I liked it. I say that two kinds of people go to university. One kind is getting to get a degree, and one kind is going to learn. The one that are going to learn are having way more fun, and that was me. So I didn't care if something was interesting. High order logic courses that you almost guaranteed a fail, I went there. I just enjoyed the stuff. I learned about it. Meta evaluators in Prolog, which nobody uses, but still was interesting. I was going there. So I really enjoyed the theoretical stuff as well. Uh, Till today, every year or so, I'm thinking maybe I should go back to university, do some more theoretical stuff. Uh, but I really enjoy coding as well. So
Did you end up with any internships while you were at university?
no,
No, so just straight heads down, studying, and you're not really working.
I'm working, as I said, computer, hiking and other things, but nothing technical.
Nothing technical. And then okay, so here's the interesting thing. By the time you graduate university, it's probably 98. You're 10 years older. You're like maybe like 27. And that's interesting to me. I was talking about this in Israel, is that at least in the States, usually you start a professional career if you don't go to graduate school, right? You're trying to start at 22, 23. But in Israel, you're starting at like 27, 28.
Yeah. So for me, it was a bit longer. I started Intel at 27, so that was. Uh, but if you think 18 to 21 is the army, 3 years more, like 24, you start if you're doing it straight up without taking any breaks. But it's still older, right? You start, but there is a value for that to being in the army and learning things about yourself. And I always tell my kids, like, you'll have enough years to work. Don't worry. uh, Enjoy this time. It's something it's not going to return. Work is there. It's waiting for you.
My daughter just finished graduate school, so she just got her first job, and now she's 26, right? It's the same thing. But the thing I said to her was, now you're going to work for the rest of your life. Like
Exactly.
this is it, right? From like you don't see that because if this first half of your, or at least the first 20 something years of your life has been school, and she was ecstatic that she doesn't have homework ever again, right? But I'm like, now you work for the rest of your life, and they're like, yay! And I'm like, well, we'll see what happens.
Talk to me in 10 years. Let's.
Yeah. Um, so then as you're graduating, you're still living at home, you're making some side income, you get your computer science degree. What was the degree kind of focused on? Did you do a lot of programming? It must have been a lot of Java. Like,
Uh, we actually did a lot of Pascal, C.
even back. Oh yeah, it's the early '90s. It's the mid '90s. Yes, I did Pascal and C2 around in those.
And we had some teachers that really like Scheme, which is a dialect of Lisp. So we did that. I did some Prolog, Perl, depending on.
All right, you're still in the pre-Java days of
Yes.
university, essentially, like me. Okay, that's fair. Um, but now you're graduating. It's the late '90s. What are you going to do? What's on the radar screen?
Now I'm applying for jobs. I'm going out, reaching out to companies, sending my CV, and getting interviewed. First one was a disaster. I froze. I didn't remember anything. Like, they asked me some stupid question about flipping bits, and I was like, oh, I don't remember.
Don't feel bad, man. My first interview, somebody wanted me to write the Towers of Hanoi, And my answer on the paper was, "I did this too many times in university. I'm not doing it again." I literally wrote that. Like, I was so angry at that question. Obviously, I didn't get the job. I think that was for IBM. There was a job at IBM in upstate New York, and I was just like, "No, I'm not doing it." So I'm there. But where do you end up? How long does it take for you to find a job in 1998 in Israel?
I don't think a lot. I don't remember a long stretch. I think the market was ripe. I think, it was the first high tech bubble in 2000, so everything was going up. We had in Israel the big companies, including Intel and others. So, and that's where I ended up in Intel in Haifa, and that's where I moved out as well.
Oh, you got a job at Intel right out of university, and you had to leave town. You had to go.
I wanted, the time was ripe. I was 27. It's time to go out.
How far away is that from Tel Aviv?
About an hour, maybe a little bit more.
Oh, it's no big deal. Nice, an hour. So, what was the job that you got? What were your responsibilities?
There is a tool that is still in the making in Intel. So they're still selling it. It's called vTune. It's a profiler that helps you understand what's going on when your code is running on the CPU. I came in to the vTune team working on the UI, which was Visual Basic, and some of the core components that were written in C.
Did you enjoy that? I mean, that sounds like exciting work for somebody out of school.
It was really interesting. Also learning more about the hardware and to know what's going on there. It was interesting to write UI for the first time, which is an event-driven programming, which is totally different than what you usually do.
So the UI ran on the machine that you were trying to get telemetry of the CPU out of?
Yeah, it's a desktop application, like the good old days. So we ran that. Also, learning the engineering stuff that you don't do at university. Source control, working in a team.
Source control was still a new idea in
We
'98. I
we used
remember.
SourceSafe.
I mean, it wasn't Git. I wasn't using Git back then. I think I was using SVN maybe. I don't remember.
So it was predating SVN, and there was SourceSafe from Microsoft. That was what we were using.
SourceSafe. That's what I was using. SourceSafe from Microsoft.
Oh, it was so
Yeah.
bad. Sorry, Microsoft. You got better, but this was really bad.
Yeah, but it was still better than creating files with numbers on them.
There's a quote from the person who started GitHub. He said that the competition was not other source controllers. It was version 1.0.zip. That's and you even see that today at some people, some
Really?
companies. Yeah, it's
I
I
haven't seen it since the
sometimes
90s.
startups they think that because they're a startup they can throw away any engineering practice and just do whatever they want. And also Git sometimes has issues, especially if you're talking with large files. And I'm helping a lot of people in the data science area. And then you have large files of data, and then Git is usually not a good solution for that. There's Git LFS, but it's not there yet. Also, working at Intel, the big CPU designs are also huge. I don't think Git will work for them as well.
Yeah, I always keep things so simple and small. I don't ever run into these sorts of problems that people talk about. Even with SourceSafe, I never had a problem with SourceSafe. It worked for me really, really well.
It worked most of the time, but sometimes I remember times when SourceSafe was open and then you did something in Visual Basic that saved it, and it override something else that someone else was doing at the same time. There was no good locking mechanism there.
You know what? I wasn't working in teams like I do today that's probably why I was always back then working.
Yeah, for solo it was great. It was great.
Yeah, I could see where in teams you could get it working in teams, sharing a file, and you'd probably get in trouble. Okay, so how long are you at Intel?
3.5 years.
So about 3.5. So now we're in that 2000, 2001
Yes.
sort of time frame. What happens that you decide to leave Intel? Are you bored?
Yes,
An opportunity
exactly.
comes across?
No, I got bored. I worked on Vitium, then I moved to another project. which was interesting. I wrote there. It was the beginning of the .NET, and I wrote a tool to understand the debug information in the CLR.NET application. But it wasn't a good fit for me in the team. I wasn't, the team wasn't. We didn't click, and I felt bored. I felt like I want to do some other things, so I left.
Did you find a job first, and how were you looking for that next job?
No, I didn't find the job first. I'm a very optimistic person, always, till today. So I just go out and said it will be fine.
So you were saving money then. You weren't spending your entire salary every month. You had
No, we
some
were
cash
saving money,
reserves.
but still, 2 kids.
You said we. What do you mean we were saving money?
My wife and I. So she's
Oh,
in
I
charge.
didn't know when she entered the picture. So what's going on there?
2000, she entered the picture.
So you met her while you were working at Intel.
Yes, I met her while working in Intel. I took a unpaid leave to do 4 months in the States with her. And when I came back, I dropped to about, I think, 60% job, and I started working on my master's degree, which I didn't finish.
Wait, hold on. You're moving too fast. I can't keep this time frame up. Hold on a second. You're at Intel, working there in Israel. It's about the year 2000. You meet who is now your wife. You meet. First of all, how did you meet? Is she an engineer? She was an engineer too.
She was a student at the university back then, just graduating.
Random chance that you met her.
Yeah, for mutual friends.
But now you talk about going to the U.S. So I don't understand. Was she going to school in the U.S.?
No. She finished. We said before we getting married, we want to do something together. So we wanted to hike in the States on the Rocky Mountains. So I came to my boss and told him, "Hey, I'm leaving Intel because I want to go 4 months out." Tell me, not so fast. You go out, you go back. And I told him, that after that, I want to start my master's degree. So he told me, let's find another way. So we went to the States. We did the 4 months going from Denver to Calgary in Canada and back on.
Dude, this is mind blowing to me. How long had you known her from the time that you went?
A bit less than a year, I think.
Okay. It wasn't like suddenly she popped up in the store and I'm like, yeah, I known her for a month and we both just graduated and we decided to go together to the state. Like that was like mind blowing. All right. So you'd been dating already for almost a year and you decide, okay, you're going to do those 4 months. So you go do those 4 months, you come back, Intel is still trying to keep you, but you're like, no, I'm going to go get my master's degree.
Yeah. And then they made me an offer. They said, okay, we'll help you with your fee, with your tuition, and we'll give you not work only 3 days a week, and we will make that happen somehow.
And you said no.
No, I said yes, but
okay.
I said yes, but after a while, I said, this is not working out. I understand that, but it's not something that happens. So I quit.
And you go school full time.
It was rough. Not school full time. I also did school very low key. It took me a while. I also didn't graduate the masters. I have everything, including a thesis that does not work, and I didn't want to do a new one. So
when you leave Intel, I guess then you're saying you got another job.
Yeah, I was looking, and this was right after the first high-tech bubble collapsed in 2000, if you remember.
Yeah.
So it took me several months, between, I think, around 6 months to find a new job. I was learning. I was at home. It was a great time, by the way.
So you moved back to Tel Aviv at that point?
No, by then we bought our own house around Haifa, and we were living there.
So when you got back to the States, did you get married at that point? You got married?
When we got back from the States, we got married shortly after. Yes. And then we bought a house around the Haifa area, and we moved there.
That was fast, dude.
Yeah.
Like, no fooling around.
No.
I mean, you met, you go do, like, your whole life changes in the scope of 12 months.
Yeah, that was really a big change. And our
wow.
And a year later, even less, our first one was born. So then another year, another one. Yeah, that was really fast.
Your parents ever say to you, like, slow down, or they're just
no,
everybody's just happy and thrilled?
Look, me and my brother also almost a year and something apart. So it was a good experience for me. So I wanted the same for my daughters, which they have, I hope.
Wow. So you got married, you bought that house. She's working at that point too, then?
I don't think so. I think around the time our first one was born, and she was full-time mom for that.
And then you got to so eventually you find another job with about 6 months in the year 2000, about halfway through the year.
Wow, I probably have to look at my LinkedIn profile to remember everything. I think
You know what? I have a lot of guests who bring up their LinkedIn to look at their CV to remember. That's fair.
I'm pretty sure it was a startup. We were doing something in the travel area of things, and then 9/11.
9/11 hits. Yeah.
From there, I moved to another. I think it was a startup that was acquired by Applied Materials for a while, and this was actually cool. They had this device that there's the wafer that you make the CPU from, and it has sometimes small particles that you want to clean it up. And they built this machine that puts a drop of water on the particle and then shoots a laser beam on it and cleans the wafer.
So part of the manufacturing
Yeah.
process.
So
What was your job there, though?
so the software that actually controls the machine that goes where the vision finds the things
That had to be all C, right? There was that in C?
it was C. Yeah, it was mostly C.
Did you enjoy that work? I guess you got to manipulate some hardware.
In a way, yeah, it's interesting, and it's interesting also to see the software actually doing something. Not just moving pixels around, but moving actually machinery. So that was also.
How do you test that stuff? Do you have to test it in a simulator and then pray it works?
So yeah, you try some simulations, you do some things on. Yeah, it's not easy.
No, but the first time you get a wafer clean, you must feel pretty excited.
Yeah, that was. I came back. It was almost done. I just finished, with the last thing, but it was really interesting to see how things. And
How long did you stay at that company? I feel like that would have been a cool job.
I want to say a year, not sure. And then I moved to, if I remember correctly, to a company that makes DVDs.
Manufacturing DVDs. So there's a lot of manufacturing in Israel at that time, because I feel like that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I did. I spent a lot of time in hardware companies at the beginning, which was interesting in one way because you learn a lot about hardware and the need. And sometimes it's frustrating because you're a second-class citizen there. Uh, the budget, the big budgets, and the focus go to the hardware. What they understand is that without software, you cannot sell hardware. I can't just sell you the metal and that's it. You need some things.
Yeah, no, it has to work. There has to be, yeah.
And you see some things, for example, at this company, they said, we don't really need an operating system. We just run the code on the CPU. It was their own CPU. And then someone said, you know what, but we need an interrupt. And then someone said, yes, but you know what, we need some layer of storage. And after a while, you write your own operating system, which is pretty crap, I have to say, versus if you invested upfront time to take one that is already made, you'd be in a better place.
Wow. But you're learning really lower level sort of computing.
So yeah, I was in writing tools for developers, which is something I still love to do a lot of times. And I was with a team that worked on the audio CPU that was processing the audio from the DVD, doing hardware simulators and debuggers for them. And this is a C++ and Python.
How long are you at that company?
Year and a half, 2 years, I think.
It's like every year and a half, you get bored, or you just don't feel like there's a growth path for you.
I thought there was no growth path. I got bored. For a long time, Intel, which was 3.5 years, was the longest job I held. Mostly boredom, but sometimes, management changes, other things.
I went through a couple of those where the management changes, and now the whole vibe changes, and it's not the same place. So you just know that you have to leave.
And the time I was there, DVD became something that you bought for good money to something that you almost got for free. And then the focus is totally changing. Instead of making something good, you make something cheap. So everything is on the cheap side, and then it starts to trickle to employees and other things. Which
So you start looking again. Are you like looking first or just leaving and looking?
this is where I made another big leap, and we decided, my wife and I, that we want to move to the States for a while. And I was starting
What year is this now? We're talking 2004,
6-ish, around that.
2006. Okay.
And I was interviewing with some companies overboard in the US. And then one of them gave me an offer, which was a really good offer.
What city?
It's a high frequency trading company. It's a small one in Beverly Hills.
In Beverly Hills, California.
90210.
So let me ask you a question before you continue there. Why did you want to go? What did you think the states were going to give you and your family at that point?
And there are several. One is my kids will get fluent English, and English is the international language. So, and until today, I get them laughing at my English. And then you want to live somewhere else. It's a different way of looking at things. Israel is home, but it's very stressful and it's hectic. And there it was easier. And
your kids are still young. They're not even in school yet, right?
4
They're
or
like
5,
4.
yes.
Your oldest
Yeah.
is maybe 4. Yeah.
About 3 months from the day I talked to them until the day we actually landed in LA. And then we were there.
That's wild. You didn't go ahead, find a place, all that. You landed as a family.
They gave us accommodation for the first month or so, like housing place. Just come over,
But you're not living in Beverly Hills, so I don't know that area.
Yes, I'm actually there. It's not. I wasn't living in the big houses you see in the movies. Like it's an apartment in a place, but it's still. The joke was we really were in the zip code 90210. That's the zip code. And for me that was also professionally was a really big thing, because the company was hiring top-notch professionals. I came in and I read that guy book. I know this guy from the project is like, it was really
Was it an Israeli company?
no.
So what was your job going to be at this company? Why did they hire you?
So they wanted to hire people. There was some Jewish connection, I think, but basically they just opened saying we hire developers, and I did some interviews and I passed. They wanted me to come in and write a system that analyzes news articles and presents traders with relative ones to what they're doing right now. That was the job, which was for me always interesting. I always like this area of computers and language. This is what I did for my master's.
Did you have to scrape, or were you able to use the XML feeds?
So we got feeds from a news agency. You pay them top dollar, so they send them away. This is Reuters and Bloomberg and others. You get them in various formats, and sometimes also from online scraping. But for me, it also was interesting because it's another world of trading, money, stock markets, futures, currencies, a lot.
Do you have to wear a suit every day? Was this I have to wear a suit job? No, okay.
No, this is West Coast. This is not.
Oh yeah,
not
it's West Coast. I know, but it's Beverly Hills Financial, so my brain still says you got to wear a suit.
I think that's a small private company. You come in the building, you don't even see their name on anywhere. It's just they try to keep a low profile.
Did you build the product? Were you able to build it?
Not to production. No, it worked not well enough. We tried to tweak it, and then we had some dispute between two owners. The company split to two parts. Yes,
Nightmare.
But in that case, yes. But I had a time of my life. Really, really, really smart people, working with them. I was learning so much all the time.
So how long were you at this company before the whole thing melted down?
So also around 3.5 years.
Okay, so you were able to establish yourself then, at least in the U.S. And all right, but now you want to get another job, you need another company to sponsor a work visa and all that.
And I'll just say that at that time I also started looking at around the time started looking at Go and other languages. So this is where I roughly started with Go. I was doing Python throughout before that. So when I lost my
Yeah, but you got there in 2006, so 3 to 4 years later, Go is 2010. I don't think it's a
yeah, that's the very beginning. We still had the make files, now the Go tool, like the 6C and the 6L and all of these.
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
this, yeah, yeah. But I was, especially because I was coming from the job I was doing at that company, I was looking for something that does servers with a lot of connections, and I was looking at languages that are a good fit for that. And I looked at Go, I looked at Erlang, and I looked at Clojure at the time. At that time, Go was really at the infancy with everything, and it was looked for me at the first time like, okay, let's see, maybe a bit better. And I really like dynamic languages and Lisp languages, so I went with Clojure. And I helped organize the Clojure meetup in LA and wrote some libraries. But eventually, if you go on the path of these open source and languages, uh, I really don't like Java. And I couldn't. At the beginning of in Clojure, you had to lean a lot on Java. There was not a lot in the language, so you had to lean on. So I came back to Go, and the rest is history.
So, what's your next job at that point? Because it's not just that easy to interview. You got to interview with companies that will.
Yes, yeah. So I interviewed. I went in LA. There's a lot of media companies. So I went to interview, and I found one which was an ad network. It was a Java shop mostly. So as I said, I don't like Java, but the place was interesting. The scale was really impressive, and the head of engineering. I learned so much from him. He basically he says my goal in life is never waking up at 4 a.m. So we build everything on old technologies, very dumb, but it just worked.
But what problems were they solve, or what problems were you solving at the media company?
For example, imagine that someone has a campaign to show ads, and they give you a budget, but now you have 100 or 1,000 servers serving ads. How do you synchronize the budget between all of these servers to make sure that it actually don't overspend or underspend the budget?
And you distribute that appropriately, so it's not all spent in an hour.
This was interesting. The data warehouse, we were getting to the really edges of Postgres at the time. We, we were starting with Hadoop for big data.
But you were dropping ads on web pages, social media pages at the time.
So basically, what an ad network is doing is that the publisher is saying these are the ads, and we want to sell this amount, and then you have places selling. Now I'm going to start a page. I'm willing to show an ad.
I'm going to put your widget on here, and you need to rotate the ads through. Yeah.
So basically, your server is saying, this is the page that's coming up. We need to put an under. What's the HTML for the ad? And send it up. You need to do it fast.
And I guess these were also the early days of algorithms that were trying to provide content-based appropriate ads. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Is that company still around? Because I feel like Google destroyed these companies.
So this one was sold, and I think the one that bought them is still around. Not 100% sure. Yeah, Google and Facebook has most of the space, but there's still place for some other ones. In Israel, we have both Outbrain and Taboola, which are pretty big in this area as well.
All right. So how long are you with this company? Because you started, I don't even know what year we're in anymore.
So 2000, I want to say
9, 10?
9, yeah, something like that. Yeah. The timeline will not come completely 100% because my memory is not that great, but
No, it's okay. It's close. I'm just trying to get a sense of time there, but
so I think 2.5 years, give or take. Then another management change, which didn't work out. So I went to another media company that someone from the old company moved there before me, and he just brought me over. And I stayed there again until we left, till we came back here.
So at that point, you decide it's time to go back to the kids. Know at that point, the kids are probably, your oldest is probably in middle school, junior high school at that point.
Yeah.
And now you say, okay, we've accomplished what we wanted with the English. And then were the kids excited about moving back to Israel?
No. Basically, I was the only one wanting to go back. Uh, for me, it was. I was saying it's like being at a good friend's house. Like it's really fun. It's great, but it's not my home. And after 8 years, I said enough. So we moved. This was really hard.
You eventually convinced everybody, or was it just
Um,
you
yes.
put your foot down and said, I'm
Yeah.
moving back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. It was hard. And we came here. The company still wanted to work with me, so this is where I started my company. So they didn't have an office in Israel, so I said, you know what, just open a company so I can send you invoices, and that's a start of what I'm actually running these days.
Brilliant. So that leads to you being able to move back and start your business. I'm curious. I don't know if you've ever asked at least the kids, or is everybody now happy that you moved back, or are they still?
We talk with them, and I think they're happy. Yes, they are happy. They're Israelis. The language is back. They have great friends. I wanted them really to do high school here because I know my best friends are from high school. I wanted them to be here in high school and do that. They also finished the army, so now they're on the way to university.
Yeah. So now they look back on it as I appreciate what Dad did.
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah. Uh, it's a good conversation to have with them in a few more years, and just it'll be interesting. Your wife is happy now, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you get to start. So that's it. Now that's the start of this company that you have now. But the majority of your early years here is on Python.
Yes. Yes. So I started Python. I worked, as I said, for the company in the US, the original one. Even though I wrote there's something in Go at one point or another, uh, but they were not happy with me. I told them there was a design document which I wrote, like we need to do some proxy. The best fit for that, uh, according to me, is Go. I published that. The problem I see, and I have it also with clients, like I write an RFC, request for comments. Nobody reads that. Only when you actually give them the software, they start saying, why is that like that? So that was my first Go product, and also a good understanding about data pipelines, because I spent about 2 months solving the wrong problem in a different part of the pipeline that it should have been. And then I started getting some customers here wanting to help them shape things in Python. And then I worked in the first two companies. Oh, I forgot Sauce Labs. So between the high frequency trading and the ad network, I was working for Sauce Labs, which is a company that does Selenium as a service. And they're in San Francisco. So this was my first time working from home remotely to a company. And there I started again with Go, and I wrote my the Selenium bindings for Go. That was my entry project. So that was there as well. So when I'm back here in Israel, so Raymond Hettinger, who's big in the Python world, and I learned so much from him. He's having his own teaching, and when we were in the States, I told him I can't work. My visa won't allow me to work to teach for you. And coming back to Israel, he sent me an email. Now you can work. Here's Europe. So I started teaching, and that was my first time teaching commercially. I did it a lot in companies when I was just an employee. I enjoyed it, like showing the other engineer what I learned and other things, but not professionally. And I found out that I really, really like it, becoming better at that. So I started doing it also in Israel. And that's basically the last 8 years, give or take.
But at some point in this 8 years, you're heavy Python. I would argue now you're heavy Go. So when does this when does it like switch halfway through, just in the last few years?
I would say I'm right now 60-40 Go to Python, give or take. really depends on the years, on customers. Um, Go become more dominant, I would say, in the last 4 years, give or take. More companies are using that. I see it a lot here in Israel. I say it's a silent revolution. Companies are switching because companies are switching internal APIs and servers to from Java, Python, Ruby to Go, but they're not talking about it publicly. And then they come to our meetup, and then, oh, you're doing Go as well, yes, and you're doing Go as well. And
Okay, but you have one of these businesses where you have to be thinking a year. In order to stay competitive, you have to almost predict a year out to give yourself enough time to learn it, so you're there. That's my entire job, predicting a year out.
yeah, so I think, and we gamble, right? Because we never know if it's going to be actual good technology or not, if it's going to stick or not. So I took a big gamble on Go when just the very beginning, and it paid off. Very happy with that. And from what I'm seeing right now, the things that I teach in the data science world, in the Go ecosystem, are still very relevant. Still a lot of newbies coming to Go. There might be experienced developers, but they don't know the language. And there are still a lot of people doing data analytics and data science, starting with Python, but Python I also do a very advanced stuff. Also in Go, but it's less than what you see in people. Thinking a year out, I know people asking me a lot about Gen AI, the ChatGPT and other things. I like to let that bubble burst a little bit and then see where it's going, because right now I think it's top hype, and I'm not sure where it's going.
I don't know if your goals are to keep this company for the next 2 decades or to get out in 10 years, but let's say that you were going to keep it. Let's say your goal is another 15 years, right? Before you get out. Do you still think you can survive and grow a company focused just on Python and Go for the next 15 years, or do you think another language has to come into your toolbox?
That's a really good question. I think um, I think on Python and Go, yes, because Python is 32 years old, right? That's the language, and it's still there, and it's still used a lot. It's going places. Just now, Microsoft announced that you can run Python in Excel. So it is still very dominant. And what I teach people, so technology changed. Sometimes you use different libraries, you use different package managers. There are things that change, but the language itself and the basics, I think, are still pretty there.
So you can think you can get some consulting gigs, but the demand for Python training has to have decreased and Go is increasing.
Not that much. Not that much. No, I see both. Python really reinvents itself every time. At the beginning, it was a scripting language. Then everybody was writing services in Python, and now it's a data science language. So it is there to stay. And Go, I think Go is in a good place because of Docker and Kubernetes. There's a big foundation of critical software that is using Go. So you never look. I'm talking to one of the banks right now about a system written in COBOL. So all technology is still there. I will probably need to change, but I think what is mostly going to change, especially in teaching, is how we teach more than what we teach. Because post-COVID, people prefer remote, even though I think it's way less effective. People don't have that much attention span. We talked about the Gen AI tools, using Copilot in classroom and other things. So I think there it's actually going to be more interesting about how it's going to work, because I'm not 100% sure that the current content and the way of delivery that we have right now is a good fit to this generation.
All these kids now starting in high school are taking virtual classes at this point in high school and college. So the idea of us teaching virtually is not, it's commonplace for them. Like that's how they're taking the majority of their classes. At least not in high school so much, but they start in high school. But in college, you have the choices now. So I feel like it's a shame because just like you, I'd rather be in the classroom. I love the conferences because I get to do that.
And it's really hard when you're teaching from remote to see the faces, to see if they're getting it or not. When I look at the class, I can see right away who's getting it, who's not, who's bored. A lot of time, even though you ask people to keep the camera open and the mic open, they close it.
Beg people to keep the
Yes,
cameras
yeah,
on.
we beg them. And there was one company that I was teaching. Two funny stories about that. One is that there was one company I was teaching, and I was feeling like I was even asking, "How are you today?" and not getting any responses. And then eventually, after the class, I reached offline to the team leader and said, "Yeah, we had a big production crisis, so we just left you in the background and went to fix something else." And I said, "Please tell me that next time, and we can reschedule or something. But why?"
Yeah, because we're going to go back and watch the recordings. No, you're not. You're never going to go back and watch the recordings. That moment's gone.
Yeah, and the second funny thing was that I was actually going to a company, to their offices, and I'm getting to the offices, and some people are there, but not the people who I need to teach. And they forgot to tell the people to come to the office that day. So I was sitting in their office teaching remote all of their people at home. Because
Dude, that happened to me going to Maersk. I show up in Copenhagen, Maersk, and the guy's like, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, "Because I had a training scheduled." They're like, "We didn't schedule any training." And then I'm like, "It's too early in the morning to get to Miguel."
yeah.
I jumped on a flight to Berlin. I said, "Screw it, I'm going to hang out in Europe now for a week."
No, so for me, they actually scheduled it, but they forgot to tell the people to come to the office. So everybody was working from home.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've done some of that too, but like come to our office, but everybody's going to be online.
And now you come to think about, what's the value of actual doing it online right now, live, versus record the video and have them look at it. Where is the added value that I'm bringing there? And in class, it's almost all the time the interaction, right? They ask questions, you answer, you do that things. But if people are silent most of the time and they don't ask anything and just, doing a monologue, this is something that I think that I still need to figure it out completely. You're doing interesting things when you teach because you switch from the camera to the code and back, and you draw on the whiteboard. So you have more interest in things, and you're more successful, I think, in getting people to ask you questions. For me, it's more of a struggle.
Well, I tell everybody, and I'm begging them to turn the cameras on, but I say it straight out. I will be teaching those that have the camera on. Those are the people I'm looking at. Those are the people I'm interacting with. And so if you want the most out of this class, if you're serious about being here, turn that camera on. And I'll get 5 to, if I'm lucky, 8 people. And that's who I teach to. I literally forget that everybody else is on this call, and I don't feel bad about it because you've chosen that you don't want to interact.
Exactly. But in a way, it's still, you want to deliver value to the customer. You want their people to learn. You need to find a way to engage more people, and that's a struggle. That's something that in class you can, I can come into someone who's out there and just ask them a question, just to wake them up, or just even if you just walk around near them, and suddenly you see them flipping from the email back to the code and doing the exercise. So you can do things to engage people. Remote is much harder.
What I try to do, even if I'm in a classroom with people and I feel like maybe people are tired or they're losing it, is I'll try to drop a joke. Jokes that I know are going to land. And if people laugh, then I know, okay, no, I still have everybody. Like I did this at Golang UK at like 4:00, right? I know everybody's tired. Let me just throw this joke down. And more than half the room laughed. I'm like, okay, everybody's still with me. When they're not laughing at these jokes, and I know they're not, I know they're context based too, like I know they work, then I know I've lost everybody. And that's when I'll just stop everything I'm doing and almost have that conversation with the, okay, you guys are all lost here because I know that was funny. So what's going on?
I think also the people who didn't listen and now everybody's laughing, they said, okay, what did we miss? Maybe we should pay attention
All
because
right. So you think, as we got like about, we're going to wrap this up now. We're almost talked for an hour and a half. You think that at least for the next 15 years, you are fine with Python and Go. See, I'm nervous. I wake up every January 1st thinking that this is the last year I get to teach Go the way I'm doing it. And every year I'm wrong. But at some point, that has to be true, right? Like Ruby was a programming language that there was a lot of corporate training around for a long time, and then it sort of stopped. Then it went to boot camps, and now it's out of the boot camps, and now it's sort of wherever it is, right? So every language is going to go through that progression. The fact that
but
Python
some stay.
hasn't
That's the thing.
yet is
Some
interesting.
languages do stay. C++ is here, Java is here, Python is here. You have languages.
Yeah, but is corporate training selling? Are companies paying $30,000 for the 20 plus hours of training for these other languages? I mean, they are with Go,
And with Python as well.
but okay. So that to me is that when does the corporate budgets no longer make sense to bring a trainer in for a particular language?
So a lot of time when I teach things that are related more to the data analytics or data science, the problem is that the teams are usually small. It's usually in a medium startup, these are 4 to 5 people. And then it's hard for them to say, you know what, let's get someone to do training in-house for them, even though I've seen companies do it. So it is possible, and they get value for that. But in these areas when there's not a lot of people, or sometimes you say, we have just one product in Go and it's not that critical, so maybe no.
What I'm worried about is there's enough expertise internally that they don't need to externally do the training. Like at some point, you hit that critical mass.
Yes, but there is also always a turnaround of people coming and going. And from what I see, learning in the job, it's not everybody does it. And I was at the beginning, when I was teaching, I was giving the exercise, tell them do it at home, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. They said, no, we want to do it now. I said, why? Now I'm here at the class, ask me questions, let me talk to you about different things. They said, no, the only time you're going to learn is right here in class. Once we go home, tomorrow after the course, we have work, we have production issues, we have tickets, Jira tickets, we're not going to touch it. So there is value in that the sitting there with an instructor and the company is actually allocated time for them to sit down and learn. Otherwise, a lot of people just do what they do, maybe to copy and paste of Stack Overflow, but that's not going to cut it for a long while.
I agree. I think Ardan can live fairly well for the next decade, still just focusing on Go, right? And the things we do there. But I think if Ardan wants to last longer, Rust had to be brought in, which is why we now have Herbert. We have to do that. And I think the longer term gamble is Zig, because I'm seeing it pop up every week. I'm hearing about some job openings for Zig too, like small, but languages come and go. But the moment somebody's like, "Oh, we're using a little bit of Zig," it's that Go thing again. I'm too tired and old to learn Zig at the level I learned Go.
Yeah.
But for me, I think going into next year, I'm going to push Miguel to find us a Zig developer who is like Herbert and start thinking about that's the longest term play, right?
That's interesting. And that's what I said when I took a gamble with Go. You never know which one is going to stay and not. I think there is a certain point once there's enough infrastructure or call it a killer project. For Go, Docker did that. For Python, I don't think there was one thing that actually did that. I can never say, Twisted. For example, in Python, there's something called Twisted. And then the initial implementation of BitTorrent was in Twisted. So a third of the internet at one point was on Python. But there was not something really dominant doing things.
Maybe not, but Google used it It's one of Google's 4 languages for ops stuff, right?
with 2 spaces, not 4. Uh, that's how you know it's a Google code. But it's really hard to know. You never know, right? There's hype around the language. People are using it. People like it. But then, until enterprise adopts a language, that's a big problem. They need to be sure that for them, for me and for you, if you want to do our hobby project, that's a small bet. For an organization like Google or maybe someone else to make a bet on a language, it's like saying nobody got fired for picking IBM. They want to make sure that they're making a bet that is going to stay with them, and that's include training.
I've learned one thing. I've learned one thing between Go and Rust that I would absolutely have to look at, and I don't have the answer for Zig. I would need to fully appreciate what the governance model is for that language. Rust is in a really bad place right now because they had this idea of open governance, but there's a power struggle going on, and that's going to hurt them. Like, forget about the fact that the language is open source. Not everybody can fork a language and start writing compilers. That doesn't mean anything to me. It's the governance model. And I was very strong-headed about Go opening their governance model. Now I feel like an idiot doing that. And if Russ Cox is listening to this at all, I apologize. Because I think at the end of the day, and I appreciate at the end of the day that he held strong to keep that governance sort of locked down. I mean, it's open in the sense that we have people that left Google and they're still helping to participate. But I think it has served Go tremendously that there were a few chefs in the kitchen as opposed to what I'm seeing happen in Rust.
And this is what happened in Python. Python, there was Guido who started the language. He had the title of beneficial dictator for life. And he actually resigned a few years back, but he did it smoothly, and there was a lot of process about geeks looking at governance models and picking one up, and it's really nice. So once you have a small set of people thinking, you get a coherent language, which everything falls in place. And I think Go is really shining there. That everything is, you see that it's not designed by committee, but something really sits nice in language.
I think it served it. Now, one day Russ might want to leave Google and it gets super interesting, but we're not there yet. So, I do have to study the Zig sort of governance model, and if I feel like it's going to be open, that would, just from my experiences, you saw it with Node, right? And then they forked it, and like I haven't seen it successfully work for something enterprise. I mean, you think about Java owned by Sun at that point, C# owned by Microsoft. I don't know what happens internally, but these kind of closed governance languages just tend to be more stable over time. I could be wrong. I don't have any empirical data to say that. Okay. And I know you're not supposed to make these claims without empirical data, but just from the surface, I feel like that has been true.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe exceptions are C and C++, but I'm not sure how the governance goes there. These are committees that they have their own thing. I don't know, but
Yeah, remember Rob Pike's great quote? Did the C++ committee think that the problem with C++ is that it didn't have enough features?
exactly. So yeah, I understand
Oh
that.
man.
The thing is, you need some years in tech to understand that what actually matters at the end are longevity and things that stay around, and not things that move. I remember hearing the creator of Vim, Bram Muner, I forgot his last name or how to pronounce it. He passed away a couple of weeks ago. And people asking, at the time, there were a lot of clones of VI. There was Vim, there was Elvis, there were several others. What made you successful? And he said, I just stayed there. I kept on going and going until they left. And I think this is true also for the languages and other frameworks.
All right, we're totally out of time, dude. But I really appreciate the hour and a half you gave us here to talk about your
It was fun.
background and your company and what you're doing. And Miki is one of the best trainers on the planet. hands down. And I only know he's doing Python and Go, but hands down. I'm really careful who we bring into Ardan. I try really hard to make sure that the quality of the educators are where I want the quality of Ardan to be. And dude, I've never looked back from the time he decided to work with us. So thank you for that.
It was, I think, 2 years until I convinced you that I'm good enough. But
I get nervous, man. I get nervous. So
reputation is so important. You really need to think about your reputation, who you bring in, how they do things. Yeah, that I totally understand.
And you know me, and I've said this to you, it's like people come to a training for the person, not the company. And so you have to be somebody who can build their own brand. People are showing up because they want to see Miki. Miki just happens to be doing this for Ardan. That's the side thing. Right? Ardan is there, but you also have to be somebody who understands that. Like you have to build your own brand and your own following and your own material and do that well.
Takes a lot of time. It's really hard. It's really easy to ruin it. So you need to be really careful.
All right, Miki, if anybody wants to reach out to you after hearing the show, and we'll put this in the show notes as well, what's the best way to talk to you?
Miki at ardanlabs.com.
Nice. Like it. What's your other email for 353?
Miki at 353solutions.com.
Nice. Both will work. All right, Miki. Thank you again for all your time. This is the Ardan Labs podcast signing off. We hope to see everybody again real soon.